In 1994, over 60 children at a school in Zimbabwe claimed they witnessed something extraordinary. They said a UFO landed near their playground and small figures stepped out of the craft. And decades later, many of those witnesses still say the same thing. Welcome back to Supernatural Signals. This is the story of the Ariel School UFO encounter. The location of the story is the Ariel School, a private institution located in Rua, Zimbabwe, a town just outside the capital. It was a normal school environment where children attended class, played outside during recess, and went about their day like students anywhere else in the world. So, nothing about the school itself suggested it would ever become part of one of the most well known UFO cases in history. But on September 16th, 1994, something unusual reportedly happened during mid morning break. While the children were outside for the mid morning recess, many of the teachers were reportedly inside the building attending a meeting, leaving the kids out on the playground. At some point, a few of the children noticed something unusual in the sky. They described seeing shiny objects moving above the area. Then, according to several witnesses, one of those objects descended toward a field just beyond the school. Naturally, curiosity kicked in. Some of the kids moved closer to the edge of the playground to see what was happening. And that's when the story takes a very strange turn. Several of the children claimed they saw small figures near the object. Their descriptions were surprisingly similar. They described the beings as thin, small in stature, with large dark eyes, and wearing dark clothes. Some students said the figures moved quickly across the ground. Others said they mostly stood still, simply watching the children. And while some kids were curious, others said they felt an overwhelming sense of fear or discomfort. Like something about the situation just felt wrong. Now, personally for me, this is when the story gets even more interesting. One of the most unusual details came later during the interviews. Several children said the beings didn't communicate verbally. Instead, they described the experience as if thoughts were placed directly into their minds, almost like a form of telepathic communication. The message they described focused on things like humans damaging the environment, technology becoming dangerous, the planet being harmed by human actions. Now remember, these were young elementary school students describing this experience, which is one of the reasons this case gained so much attention. Now, news of the encounter spread quickly. The children began telling teachers and adults what they had seen, and many of them also drew pictures of the craft and the beings. Those drawings often showed similar elements: a silver craft, small humanoid figures, large dark eyes. And one of the most well known investigators was Harvard psychiatrist John E. Mack, who had been studying reports of UFO encounters. He interviewed many of the children individually, and something interesting stood out. Even when the students were separated, their descriptions of the event shared many of the same core details. Mack later said the children appeared sincere and emotionally affected by what they experienced. Now, of course, not everyone believes this was a genuine extraterrestrial encounter. Some skeptics suggest the event could have been a case of mass suggestion, where one child's story spreads and influences others. Others believe the children may have seen a misidentified aircraft or something unusual in the sky that sparked their imagination. Another detail sometimes mentioned is that just days before the sighting, people in southern Africa had reported seeing a bright fireball meteor, which may have already had people talking about strange things in the sky. Still, the number of witnesses involved makes the case difficult to dismiss entirely. Now, many of the students who were present that day are now adults, and over the years, several of them have continued to speak publicly about the event. Many say their story has never changed, and some claim the experience shaped how they think about humanity, technology, and the future of the planet. Others simply say they know what they saw, even if they still can't explain it. Here's a clip of one of the students explaining their experience.
Actually, three beings. Two of them kind of remained within the line of sight from the playground to the craft. And another one, which is also one of my most vivid memories, was one of the beings actually darting from the craft towards the direction of the swimming pool. The swimming pool, which was probably about 200, 300, 400 meters to the left of the playground. And the most peculiar thing was the way in which it moved, because it almost felt as if it would disappear and appear a few meters ahead of itself.
Now, before we close this out, I want to jump into my own thoughts and theories about this case. Because cases like the Ariel School shooting encounter raise a bigger question about how we approach the unknown. The world is kind of designed in a way where if something strange happens to you, there will almost always be an explanation waiting for you. People might say it was mass hysteria, or that you were just too tired, or maybe you misremembered something, or maybe a light reflected the wrong way and tricked your brain. And to be fair, skepticism is important. Not everything unusual has a supernatural explanation. But at the same time, I think there's another problem that doesn't get talked about enough. Sometimes people doubt themselves so much they start to gaslight their own experiences. They convince themselves that what they saw couldn't possibly be real, even when they know deep down something strange really did happen. And when that happens, curiosity kind of stops and supernatural growth stops. Because instead of asking what happened, we immediately jump to, it couldn't have happened. I think the healthier approach is somewhere in the middle. Be skeptical, ask questions, but also be honest with yourself about your own experience. Because stories like the Ariel School case reminds us that sometimes people really do encounter things they can't easily explain. And maybe the real mystery isn't just what happened that day, maybe it's how often we dismiss the unexplained before we even try to understand it. Let's put it this way. There's a philosophical idea called Occam's razor, which says the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. But that raises an interesting question. What if one day the supernatural actually becomes one of the simplest explanations? What if strange phenomenon, unexplained encounters, and experiences like this aren't complicated mysteries at all, but just part of reality we don't fully understand yet? Alrighty, thank you for listening, and if you enjoyed this investigation, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more future mysteries. Here on Supernatural Signals, we explore deep paranormal investigation like these, uncover quick mini mysteries which you can find on my short tab, and I share my personal experiences and thoughts in my Haunted Journal series. If you want even more supernatural content, you can follow me on Instagram at supernatural_signals. I post channel updates, clips, and other spooky content there. And if you're curious about the person behind the channel, I also share some day-to-day life moments in my stories. And if there's a mystery you'd like me to cover next, let me know down in the comments. Until next time, stay curious and stay tuned into the supernatural. Thanks for watching.